Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon, and welcome back to another episode of Tucked In. I'm Tucker, also known as Hagrid. If you guys could go ahead, hit the like, hit the subscribe. That always helps us out. Let's dive in. Is it over, guys? Is it over? Are we cooked? Is zero imminent? Let's find out, man. Let's find out. Are we in for another year-long bear market? Let's find out. All right. Again, blank chart, Bitcoin, Binance. Here we go. All right. So, a few things I'd like to mark out right off the bat. Okay. This right here. Good line. Check line. Good line. Okay. I want to make sure it hits those lows right here. We closed the daily below it, right? We're trying to pop back up right now. Bounce was somewhat telegraphed. I mean, after hitting 98.9, we were due for a little bounce, granted. A lot of work to do, right? So, a few things. So, I'd like to see this line reclaimed first and foremost. We have clearly broken down from our value range since July, right? If I drag this all the way back to this giant volume candle, we've also broken down from this value range going back to May. Okay. And that sits at 105.8, an interesting level, right? Take these closes, delete this now. These are our levels to the upside. I think we need to flip in a big way. This obviously looks pretty good for a local bottom, right? At least give us the bounce we're getting right now. But I think that this area, basically this, is going to continue to serve as resistance, right? All the way up to 105.7. I think that's your, maybe not your ultimate level to flip, but that is your kind of short-term line in the sand. I think you need to flip on the daily time frame, right? We can zoom out to the weekly and check it out a little bit more, but you're in a downtrend. You're in a downtrend on the 6-hour. You're in a downtrend on the 12-hour. You're in a downtrend on the daily. You're in a downtrend, right? Like there's not really a good debate against you being in a downtrend. So even the weekly, we're going to go out to the weekly and mark out some levels as well. To the downside, it does look okay that we held this line. That's not a bad hold. I'm going to delete these now. Mark out weekly levels. It's really these, in my opinion. It's really these on the weekly, right? You'd want to see your weekly, and obviously these goalposts have moved down, right? Our goalposts a couple weeks ago were this level and 112. The goalposts have moved down. Indeed, the goalposts have moved down. This 108 would be a miracle if we flipped it, in my opinion. I think short term, if you close the week above 105, you can see a little more bounce, maybe even up to 108. Not my base case. Not my base case at all, honestly. Again, I think this like 104 all the way up to 108 is going to be weekly resistance. I do. I think closing the week below 104.4, call it 104, right? You close the week below 104.5, that's pretty bearish. You close it below 101, that's a disaster, in my opinion. But let's look at why we're bouncing. Let's look at why we're bouncing real quick. So we're going to put some indicators on, right? We're going to throw in our VWAP. We're going to put on our simple moving average. Let's do it like this. 50-week chart weekly. Okay, now let's do VWAP. Session, let's do year. Okay, let's Let's get rid of the standard deviations. Let's make this green. Fat. Okay. All right. We'll leave the cloud. We'll leave the cloud. The cloud's fine. Actually, no. I'm going to get rid of the cloud. There. All right. Not hard to see why we're bouncing, right? Not hard to see. We have our yearly VWAP at 100K. Well, here's the levels, right? Top left corner, if you can see that, right up here. 100.7 and 102.3. Those are two giant levels. Those are two giant levels on the weekly. We haven't really had this flip happen except for right before the year shifted. So I'm going to throw that out. But a decent point of reference might potentially be here, unfortunately. Okay. This is when the blue crossed over the green, blue crossed over green, right? Kind of the same thing happened, right? You kind of had a very similar thing, right? You had this kind of double top, 1, 2, 1, 2, higher high, higher high, big correction in between, big correction in between that bottomed on the 50 week, got back above it all, slightly higher high, sold off, right? And when you had this blue, which is the 50-week cross above the 365-day VWAP, yearly VWAP, it was over. It was most assuredly over. Okay. Bitcoin went down another 70% from that point, which took a while, obviously, right? Let's just take a little date. Took about 343 days and 70% later until we bottomed. So I'm not saying the same thing has to happen by any means. I'm just drawing what appears to be a pretty decent correlation or fractal, whatever you want to call it. Now, I will note that essentially, if we're going to run that, right, if we're gonna take this comparison, which we're going to study on this channel right now, and we're going to say we're within this candle, right, this November 29th candle, you didn't go straight down after that, right? You had a good bit of chop, leg lower, chop, leg higher, and then really leg down, right? So this whole process from that candle until I mean, this took 7 months. No, 6 months, 6.5 months. All right. This took 6.5 months of downtrending, of people screaming, buying every dip. I was there. I remember. Okay. I fully remember this. Right. Especially when we were right here. We are back. We have double bottomed, higher low. This candle, we flipped the 50-week, we flipped the VWAP. Here we go. And that was the Pico top of the dead cat bounce. And then we sold off another 63% from April to June in like 2 months. 63%. So I would just, and this looks so fucking similar. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry for cursing, but even this little structure, right? Even this little structure right here. I know it's below this all-time high, whereas here it's kind of equal to or above. But I mean, this is where you kind of bottomed and chopped. This is where we could kind of at least bottom and chop, Bears are wrong, bulls are wrong, bears are wrong. Oh no, bears are right. Oh no, they're wrong, bulls are right. Oh no, bears are right, bulls are wrong. Like everybody's wrong for a little while during this period, So I don't think picking a hard stance or choose like, we are going to go down right now is the move, right? I think we're probably going to have some garbage. We're probably going to have some chop, shorter term perps options probably get burned, right? Like I think this is kind of an everybody loses scenario, unfortunately. Now I know I'm not saying we're in last cycle. Last cycle was totally different, right? We had massive money printing. We had a huge alt season. Bitcoin dominance nuked. Altcoins ripped. It was epic. We haven't had that, right? We've had no money printing. We've had no altcoin season, right? Bitcoin dominance has not nuked at all. Let's go look at that chart real quick. If it's gonna turn around, it's gonna be probably from here. Actually, looking at this, you have found support on the 50-week and the VWAP multiple times, and now you've lost them and you're retesting as resistance. So if you're gonna nuke Bitcoin dominance, it's probably gonna be from here. But if you get above 61, it's gonna fly again, right? So I don't know. I think there's a lot of similarities to 2021. In the kind of double top situation, but I don't know. I'm being cautious here, man. I don't think because here's my take. Like I don't think being cautious is going to be punished here. If I'm wrong right now and we are about to rip and send it to new highs, altcoins aren't really going to send in a big way until you're at least above the origin of this drop, in my opinion, right? At least until above 110, 115. Like, because I don't think people are going to buy it until you're above this area. Once you get above 110, 115, off to the races. Here we go. I don't think you're going to miss much in altcoin gains between here and here on Bitcoin. Dominance is probably actually going higher. Because if we're going to get a giant move up, Bitcoin's leading and Bitcoin dominance is going to go up. And if we get a giant move down, altcoins are going to sell, Bitcoin's going to sell, and dominance is going to go up. So either way, I'm pretty sure dominance is going up from here because I don't think this is a setup from a dominance perspective or a Bitcoin USD perspective for an alt season at 103.5. I don't. So where do we go from here? We marked out our daily levels. We looked at it on a lower time frame on the 6 hour. If you're bearish, you want to see this thing capped at like 105, 106, ideally even like 104. If you're bullish, I think on a weekly closing basis, you need to flip 108. On a daily closing basis, you need to flip 106-ish. But I don't think there's any sense in getting crazy bullish right here. Or crazy bearish. Like bears caught the move. Like if you've been bearish since like back here, you caught this move. Or even right here, right? Like you caught the move. So I think caution is warranted, but we're just gonna have to see how it plays out because there's a lot of other things at play, right? Like, is the government gonna reopen? Is China gonna screw us over? Like there's a lot of variables at play. Like they already cut rates, they already said they're gonna end QT, and the market nuked. So I don't know what else from a monetary policy perspective needs to be done. Obviously, if they cut in December and they're like, yeah, we're actually not only ending QT, but we're starting QE, bull market's back on. It's going to send, in my opinion. But as it stands at this moment, I'm skeptical. To say the least. So I think, like I said, caution until proven otherwise, in my opinion. But levels. That's your first one. Let's make this really connect these lows right there. Get these lows. 104.5. If you're bullish, 104.5 needs to get flipped with haste. Really, this little consolidation right here, call it 105, needs to get flipped with haste. If you can't flip that, it's going to slide more. And if I'm looking to add to shorts, that's literally where I'm going to do it. That's where I'm going to do it in this consolidation. Probably like 104.7. We'll see what happens, but they're pushing it higher for now. I mean, also like the 10-10 stuff, Stream Finance blew up the other day. Binance has been nuking Bitcoin and ETH. Like, I just think there's a lot of unknowns that it's not worth getting chopped up over until some things become clear. So that's just where my head's at with it. I'm decently bearish, honestly, and I could be getting bearish at the bottom. Actually, that's not true because I've been bearish since back here. So we caught this move, but I don't want to get crazy bearish at 103. I think there's some levels we could push into and slam shorts from potentially, but we'll see. I just think there's a lot to be worked out between now and clarity. So that's pretty much it. I just want to do a quick Bitcoin update. We're probably bouncing today, maybe even tomorrow, but we'll see what happens this weekend. A lot of news driven catalysts coming up as well. So be nimble, be on your toes. But yeah, like I said, that's it for me. I need to go hop on market check actually right now. So I will catch you guys on the next one. Hit the like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you later.